She's going to start something that I put together here recently at the beginning of this. Hopefully the volume will be good. People came to my school to tell me the dangers of smoking. I remember thinking, oh, shut up. It's none of your business. I'm not hurting anyone but myself. And that is so far away. Nothing is going to happen to me until I am old and ready to die, so it does not matter. And so I lived my life by this decision, and nothing would change that until it was too late. It was just me at first, and I was making my own way through life until one day I would become a father of a little girl, and that would change everything. It was no longer about me. It was about her, and everything I knew about life had changed. Now I was diagnosed with end-stage COPD and told if I was lucky, I had 5 years left to live. My daughter had to watch in terror as they worked very hard to get me to breathe again, as I was suffocating and struggling for my life for 4 hours. I would have to have lung reduction surgery just to make me more comfortable with the time that I have left. I would do this just prior to my grandson being born, not knowing if I was going to make it through the surgery to meet him. It was an epic struggle, one day after getting out of intensive care, to fight for my life in great pain and with almost no physical strength, just to live long enough to meet my grandson. 2 years after he was born, my granddaughter was born. There is an intensity of love that transcends anything I have ever known when it comes to grandchildren. I find I have so much to live for, so very little time left to enjoy it. Only too late do I realize that I am not just hurting myself. I am hurting my daughter, who lost her mother to lung cancer just a few years ago. And I look into the eyes of my grandchildren, and I see the deep love they have for me, and I know I am going to break their poor little hearts. I am bringing pain to my family and all of my close friends. How did I live this lie in such ignorance? And besides, I'm not an old person, and I certainly am not ready to die. I was just like you. Don't be just like me. Kind of feels funny for me to stand in here today because I went to high school here. I remember people coming and talking to me about smoking, and you know, they show you pictures that kind of turn your stomach and maybe tweak your mind a little bit, but they didn't touch me because I remember exactly what I was thinking, and probably some of you are thinking along the same lines. When they came to talk to me and the other kids that were in the school, in my mind I was thinking, oh, shut up, it's none of your business. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. And nothing's going to happen to me until I'm an old person, ready to die. For some reason, I thought old was 40, 50. And somehow in my mind, I thought, when you get that old, you really don't have much left to live for, you know? So, I mean, that's the way I thought when I was here. And so I didn't take their advice. You know, and I just kept smoking and I kept living my life, and it was just me. And then as that little video shows, something happened in my life that I didn't plan on. I never planned on being a father. Because, I had a real rough childhood. I left home when I was 9 years old. It was either that or get beat to death. Because they weren't protecting children as well as they are today. And that's when I started smoking too, when I was 9. And I just kept at it all of my life. And a lot of my life I felt depressed about life. It just, I felt like I was the lowest person on earth, everybody else was better than me, better looking, smarter, just everything. I just lived in depression, and that smoking habit just stayed with me, and I programmed my mind to think that smoking a cigarette relieves stress. Today I know it doesn't. Today I know what I was doing was I was defocusing. I was changing, the focus of what was bothering me to something else. And today I realized that what I was really doing was I was taking all of that stress and I was putting it in a bank and I was saving it up for later. And one day, that bank was going to burst and I wouldn't be able to handle the returns. So here I am, a single father, and I've been a street person all my life, and I realized at that point I got a choice. I either quit being a street person and take care of this little girl and change my whole lifestyle, and I did. I got off the streets. I ended up in a custody battle for her. I won sole physical and legal custody of her, and I just gave my life to her. But I kept smoking. And everything seemed like for a while that I was going to be one of those people that gets to smoke for almost all your life. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing shortness of breath. And then a little while later, I started noticing that I was waking up with a cough, and it was getting harder and harder to smoke a cigarette. And I finally went to the doctor to find out what was wrong. Not to tell myself I had to quit smoking, but to find a way to be able to have that morning cigarette. And that's real crazy because that's how the addiction is. The tobacco companies have worked diligently to make tobacco more and more addicting, to the point where it's far more addicting than heroin. My daughter watched her mom die of lung cancer. She held her in her arms, right up to the point she died. And my daughter was smoking, and she couldn't quit smoking. When her mom died, she had to have a cigarette. Because her mind said that was a way to relieve stress. And then her dad got diagnosed with end-stage COPD and emphysema. And she still, for a while, could not quit because that's how strong this addiction is. Several years back, she decided she was going to quit smoking for my birthday, and she hasn't gone back. And I'm really happy about that. But people helped me along the way. I went through all of the stuff I went through because of this little law called the Code of Silence, where you don't tell anybody what's going on in your family or around. You just keep it to yourself. You lock it inside, and you walk around with a smile like everything's okay. And that's what I did. I never told anybody about the terror that I lived with as a child till not too long ago. And because of that, I went through a lot of stuff. But people showed up in my life and they gave me little tidbits of wisdom that actually helped me a lot to keep me from going off the deep end to the point where I'm still here today. And one person told me, they said, you know what? You need to learn the secret of mind over matter. I said, yeah, what's that? And I expected a guru type answer, and he said, if you don't mind, it don't matter. And I started laughing at him. I thought that was really funny. But for some reason, it started to make some real sense. I was all depressed. I was so angry inside because everything mattered too much. And somehow I learned, to start letting go. And that's where my freedom started to come. Another person walked up to me and they said, I perceive you don't have the ability to forgive. And he said, if you can't do it, you might try praying and asking for the ability. And I was willing to try anything, and I did that. And pretty soon, the ability came. I was able to forgive the people that had brutalized me in the earlier part of my life. And there's a great freedom that came with that. And then I found that I was able to forgive the one person I could never forgive. That was me. I was the hardest one to forgive of all. Well, then my daughter, she had children, the ones you saw there. First came my grandson, and I don't know what happened, but when my daughter was born, the doctor handed her to me, and I just stood there with her in my hands, with tears in my eyes, and I had no words, because something was happening inside of me so deep and so wondrous and so powerful, there was no words for it, but it changed my life. A lot of times we go through life-changing forces. And then when my grandson was born, my heart quadrupled in size. And I was like, God, what is with this? I mean, if it gets any bigger, my heart's going to explode. I can't withstand this. And then my granddaughter came along. And those two, they look at me with such pure love in their eyes. And I'm so much to them that it's unbelievable. And it's hard for me to feel that I even deserve that sometimes. But, when I look into their eyes, it's bittersweet. Because I know at some point, I'm going to have to die. And they're going to suffer a lot of pain. A lot of people, when they smoke, they always worry about cancer. I don't have cancer. I won't live long enough to have cancer. Emphysema and COPD are not considered to be cancer at all. But in a lot of ways, they're more hideous because they kill you slower. They suffocate you to death very slowly. And I'll tell you right now, there is nothing more terrifying than suffocation. These are some of the things that I put in the bank because I didn't listen to somebody who came and maybe showed me pictures, and maybe they talked to me from the top of their head, so I knew it was head knowledge, and I didn't listen to it. I kind of wish that somebody had come and spoke to me with tears in their eyes and their voice shaking, because maybe I would have listened a little bit closer to what was being said. Maybe some of your parents are smokers too, and by no means go home and fight with them to try to make them quit. It's going to make things really bad. But you can go home and tell them, somebody came and told me their story today, and this is what their story was. And I love you too much to ever lose you that way. You can talk to them from your heart with compassion, and you'll get a lot farther. When this thing first came down, I woke up in the morning and I was having extreme difficulty breathing. And my daughter's already terrorized because she's watched her mom die of lung cancer. And she's standing there in the living room and I'm fighting so hard for breath and I can't do it. And what I didn't know was that there's a condition I go through, it's called trapping air. It's an extreme exasperation attack. I get air stuck in my lungs. My lungs are full of air, but that air is dead. There's very little oxygen left in it, high degree of carbon dioxide. And all I can do is take tiny little gulps of air on top of it. That's like taking a big breath and holding it, and then try to breathe on top of that without touching any of the air you're holding in your lungs. And every cell in your body is screaming that you're suffocating to death and that you're going to die. That level of terror was so intense, it turned me into a non-smoker in those 4 hours of terror. I left that hospital and I never touched another cigarette again. Only problem is I quit too late. You know, when the doctors tell you that you only got 5 years left to live, you know, you got to do some real soul searching, like, whoa, what are you going to do with that? Some people get crazy and they go stay drunk, or they decide they're going to go out there and take everything they can take out of life while they can. I sat there and I thought, I can't imagine another living soul having to suffocate the way I did for those 4 hours. I can't imagine any one of you ever having to know what that feels like. And so I knew right then that what I wanted to do was dedicate what life I have left to try to stop as many people as I can and make them realize, you know, they need to choose life now. Don't wait a few years, because the longer, if you're smoking, the longer you go with it, the stronger it gets. And pretty soon my voice of reason will be a dim echo in your past. You know, what I really wanted to do when the doctors first diagnosed me was I wanted to get on TV, I wanted to get into radio stations, I wanted to go into groups like this and talk to people and tell them, look, you don't want to be here. You don't want to walk in these shoes. You don't want to know what this feels like. You know, and it seemed like that was going to die for a while, that, you know, I was just going to fade away into the night quietly. But something happened. Somebody sent me a link that CDC was looking for a spokesperson, you know, and they would pay him $2,500. I figured, I'll try. They probably won't pick me because this is 1 in a million or 1 in multi-million. I mean, my chances is probably almost nothing. You know, and I talked to them from my heart, the way I'm talking to you guys. You know, and pretty soon they couldn't get me down there fast enough. And so I made a commercial with the Center for Disease Control that is being aired across the entire United States. You know, and that commercial says, if the doctor gives you 5 years to live, then use that time to explain to your grandchildren why their grandpa's not going to be around anymore, to share his wisdom and his love. That I haven't figured out how to do that yet, and I'm running out of time because time's not on my side. In that video you saw, the big scar running down my chest, they had to cut the top of both my lungs off just so I could be more comfortable, you know, with the time that I have left, because I felt like I was almost out of breath all the time, whether I was sitting, watching TV, or walking upstairs, or just walking. My voice is changing because of the changes that are happening in my body. You know, and the only thing that's going to save me, and that's only for a while, is if I get lung transplants. And my chances of getting those and living long enough to get them is very small. When I went to the hospital and went through that surgery to get the lung reduction surgery, I got out of intensive care, and I was only out of intensive care 1 day. And then they said, we're sorry, but you're going to have to get out of bed, and you need to walk around the hall at least once, or you're going to die. You're going to develop pneumonia and die. I mean, when you get out of intensive care after going through a major surgery like that, you don't have any strength. And you're in a lot of pain. And just to get up out of that bed is a huge task. But I did it. I struggled day in and day out to get enough strength back. And I had to fight for my life. You know, I'm sharing some of these things. And there's other things that I have to go through yet. Until the end. I went and did some work with somebody that helps people with conditions like mine to be able to be a little stronger and breathe better. And he asked me, he said, are you at the point where you have to decide between eating and breathing. I looked at him and said, "What? You're crazy." I said, "You can breathe and eat at the same time." And he looked at me and, with kind of a disgust, and he said, "No, believe me." And then I went fishing with a friend of mine. We hiked down to the water, and it was all downhill, and it wasn't too bad. We fished for a while, and then it was time to come back. And coming back, it took me a long time because I was coming uphill, and I would walk maybe 50 yards and have to stop and catch my breath, and I was desperately out of breath. I didn't even know if I was going to make it back to the car. But I was so far out of breath that I thought there for a minute, and I thought, you know what? If I had to eat right now, that would be impossible. And then I understood at that moment what that man was telling me. There were 5 of us that did this nationwide campaign to try to reach people like you at the beginning of this year. 2 of the people have already died. There's only 3 of us left. I'm really hoping and praying inside that something that I'm telling you today is going to ring true in your hearts, and that you're not going to be able to let it go. And that will help you make a decision to choose life. And if you're already there, to fight for it. Because, when I was in school, life was real depressing and the future was uncertain. And I thought it was always going to be that way, but it wasn't. The moment I became a father, everything changed. And I just wanted to live forever after that. I wasn't concerned about what I wanted to do anymore. I wasn't concerned about my time. My daughter never even had a babysitter. If you would have asked her when she's grown up, "Who's your babysitter?" she wouldn't know what you're talking about. Because I didn't need a break. She was my break. You guys are like fresh slates here, When you leave this high school, things are going to change really big. Then you're going to be the masters of your own destiny. And you're going to start having to shape your own ways and make your own decisions and look after yourself. Today, where I stand is I have everything to live for and very little time left to do it. My little granddaughter's, saying, "Papa," whenever we go anywhere, we're in public, she'll start pointing at me and she'll start saying, "Papa, Papa, Papa." She wants everybody to know that's her Papa, and I can't tell you how good that feels. I wish somebody would have come to my school back then and spoke to me with tears in their eyes and pleaded with me from the very depth of their heart, with everything that they could muster out of their own soul to try to touch me. It may have changed things for me. The other thing I want to tell you is this. The reason I was chosen by CDC is because they wanted to represent the Alaska Native people, and they also picked an American Indian from down south to represent the Native American people. Why? Because we have the highest rate of cancer than any nationality in the United States. And the United States is full of every nationality you can think of. And it's because we don't have the genetic makeup to fight against cancer. The same thing that happens with alcohol happens with tobacco. And so if you're Native and you smoke, you're running twice the risk. I also discovered these things too. When I was laying there on my deathbed, I thought about, what's really important. And I came down to two things. Relationships. The people that you love, they were right there. What was the other thing? Memories. And so I became committed at that point that I was going to try to develop as many relationships as I could. And not just relationships, but deep relationships. Because most of my life in that depression, I lived behind a wall I built. And so it didn't allow me to socialize with other people, really, from my heart. Most people that knew me, I just talked to them from my head. And so I got committed to start really working at trying to develop really deep, meaningful relationships. And then those memories, it's not all about me. I became committed to trying to create as many wonderful memories as I could in other people, in my family, and my friends, and my daughter, and my grandchildren, in other strangers' lives through random acts of kindness. And I realized, if I keep doing this, I'm enriching my life. I'm making it worth more. And this opportunity to reach out across the whole United States, how many people get an opportunity like that? I did. And because of it, I'm ending up in places like this. I've traveled up to Kodiak and, up to Dillingham, and I'm being invited up into, I think, Kotzebue, and they want to bring me up there while they're having a big whaling thing that goes on in the fall, and hopefully they'll beach a whale while I'm there. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, well, if you guys do, then don't touch it. Just move away from it and give me a fishing pole and let me stand next to it and then take my picture. Because I want to tell everybody that fishing is great in Alaska. But if you sit around bored, it's because you're waiting for someone else, to bring your excitement, to shape your little world around you. Life is a big adventure. There are so many things out there, discoveries and adventures, that you can't live long enough to discover all of them. So it makes more sense to get up and get out there and start that discovery. They try to encourage you in these schools about that. It didn't click. I didn't pick it up. I hope you guys do. And I hope you realize, basically your happiness is your job. But I really want to thank you guys for listening to me, for allowing me to share a little bit with you about what life is like when you make the wrong decisions. I hope this stays with all of you. And I can't do this enough. I don't have a lot of choices in life left in front of me, or a lot of time, so I gotta kind of redeem the time. And if they would open the door to every school in the United States, I would spend the last of my life's breath running through those doors and doing what I'm doing here today. Because if I can do that, I know that I've made a bit of difference in the world. And I get to leave this world having given something that means something. But I wish you guys all the best. And, if you smoke, God, I hope you make it. I hope you don't have to stand up on a stage someday and tell somebody how sad it is to discover how beautiful life is and then not have the time to enjoy it that much. Thank you, Ariel, for having me.
to order at 5:53. Anyway, so we're going to start with candidate speeches. First, the executive board has to get off the board for our candidates to do their speeches. Nominees and candidates will get nominee ribbons at the end of all of the speeches. So with that, executive board, please vacate, and we'll get started. So I'm going to stay over here and MC. Our first candidate for public relations rep is Ethan Forbes from Bethel.
11,160. That's the number of minutes I put into student council just last year. I'm Ethan Forbes. I have many things to offer as your public relations officer. Things like new ideas, experience with social media, and dedication and hard work. For example, this past year, Bethel won a celebrity principal through a social media competition that was nationwide. That involved like Twitter challenges and just a lot of things on social media. But after our students worked so hard and so long, they tried to give us a 1-hour Skype call. Can you believe that? So, led by me and the student council decided to have a social media campaign. So the whole student body took to Twitter. 12 hours and 800 tweets later, Get Schooled decided to listen to our voice, and we got a celebrity principal. I had a leading role in leading that the social media campaign so that Get Schooled heard our voice. I also have experience. I'm currently on my second term as BRHS's public relations representative, and I believe I'm ready to go on to a larger scale. I also have dedication. Like I said, I put in 11,160 minutes, or 186 hours. That's almost 8 days. And according to the new AASG bylaws, the public relations officer is required to update social media once a month. As your public relations officer, I can guarantee I will update it twice a month. I diligently work hard in everything that I do, and I will put this hard work and dedication into being your PR officer. I'm Ethan Forbes. Vote for me as your next AASG public relations officer.
Our next candidate is Jeffrey Moore from Unalaska. Oh, I'm sorry, Mount Edgecombe. Kind of both. Okay, there you go. Oh, and your official hot pink from you.
Oh, there you go. I'll put that on after. What? That is the amazing photo of me. Oh, wrong phone. Let me get situated. Sorry for the delay. This is really exciting that I have this opportunity, but also very nerve-wracking at the same time. So, my name is Jeffrey Moore, and I'm running for the position of Public Relations Representative. I'm originally from Unalaska, but I attend Mount Edgecombe currently in Sitka, and I'm a junior. Growing up, I've always felt a natural draw to be at the front of the crowd. LOLs. As I grew older and matured, this natural draw turned into a natural ability to be a leader. I'm extremely outgoing, and I value the opinions and views of all people. During the middle of my sophomore year, I decided that I wanted to make a drastic change in my life and try something new. This drastic change was transferring to Mount Edgecombe for my junior year. My main inspiration for doing this was a dear friend of mine, Tessa Baldwin, a highly active member of this organization during her high school career. She's also my inspiration for running for this position on the board. She inspired me to be who I am and be the change that I wanted to see. So I thought, what would be a better first step than becoming involved in student government? Doing so has shown me how much I love and how dedicated I am not only to student government, but to the people around me. Tessa was an inspiration to me, and now I want to be an inspiration to others. Having close ties to both Region 7 and 5, I know the importance of communication and networking, and feel that I would be a fantastic candidate for PR, because communication and social networking is one of the primary jobs of the PR rep. Not only this, but attending Mount Edgecombe gives me the chance to hear people's voices throughout the entire state. I love AASG, I love people, and I have a deep passion to inspire others. I'm asking you, AASG, to partner with me, and together, we can inspire change in this amazing state of Alaska. Thank you, and remember, vote Jeffrey Moore for Public Relations Representative. And happy Alaska Day. And I have a short little tidbit video. Where do I put this?
Hold on.
I'm Jeffrey Moore, and I want to be your public relations officer. I'm good at tweeting, and I can tweet like 2,100 words a minute. And I'm good at Facebook, and I do like 8 Instagram selfies a night. So, vote for me.
Here's some reasons why you vote for Jeffrey.
Is confidence, he has passion for leadership, and overall, he's such a great guy.
What are you
He's
doing?
the most outgoing and social person I know. He's a natural born leader, and he can do anything that he wants. Feel welcome and included.
Not thank you, go out there and talk to people. Obviously will benefit him and his career.
He's really nice, he's very dedicated to his work, and he's like the star of the show.
He's my light.
Because he's such a good dancer.
3, 4, 5, and 6.
Free do this? Yes, he can.
Oh, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, just because he keeps his lips moisturized.
I love America, and I love AASG. So vote Jeffrey Moore for public relations.
Our next public relations nominee is Andrew Walter.
Problems you're having with this is kind of short. There we go. Okay. Hey, AASG. My name is Andrew Walter, and I'm running for the Public Relations Office. I'm a junior at Monroe Catholic, that's in Fairbanks, and I'm from Region 6. First, I want to acknowledge the incredible job done by our current PR, Nels, here. He, along with the rest of the AASG e-board, have really inspired me to go for this position and become a bigger part of this association that has been such a big part of my life so far. So thank you, Nels. I think I speak for all of the delegates when I say that you keep things entertaining, to say the least. This is my third AASG conference. I really missed out my whole freshman year, but after the Wasilla conference, I was hooked. So I expect to see the freshmen here bringing more students and returning to future conferences. When people ask me about AASG, I know it's cliche, but I just have to say that is truly life-changing. AASG inspires further involvement in our schools and our communities. I know personally that after my first conference, I became much more involved with student council in particular, looked for more ways to make positive change in mine and other people's lives, and spoke Parley Pro for a solid 2 weeks after. The things that you experience at these conferences stay with you, and I want to be the guy that connects you with what is going on throughout the year and keeps the AASG spirit alive, so that the AASG withdrawals and the post-AASG depression is not as bad. The main reason I want to be your public relations officer is because, to me, the best thing about AASG is the people who are here right now. The people who you meet at these conferences are people who you'll be connected to for the rest of your high school lives, and more likely than not, further down the road. I know that most definitely holds true to me when it comes to the people who are here now and the past members that are in college. The people around you are an amazing group. I know this because I've talked to them, and if I haven't talked to you, you should come talk to me. I love to hear about what AASG means to you, and I really can't get enough talking to you guys. That's an important part of this position to me. It isn't only public communications. I don't want to be known as the guy who communicates by sending constant AASG notifications to you. It's public relations. I want to be the guy that gets to relate with you and with AASG and give you a closer connection to what we do. Just because there's only 2 conferences a year doesn't mean that AASG stops Saturday night. It continues, And it should build, keeping that enthusiasm going year-round until you walk into that first General Assembly of the Fall Conference, and you're cheering and getting loud and getting excited to be part of a group that has a significant impact on our state, with a pride that can't be broken down over time, only strengthened. The thing I love about you guys is that I'm always surprised by how the overwhelming majority of you share a common desire for positive action and change, aren't afraid of new situations, and are always so enthusiastic about what you do, and know what we do as AASG. This is what I want to do in this position. I want to connect with the most important part of AASG, which is you. With a group like yourselves, I have plenty of motivation to keep this AASG spirit alive well past the end of the conference. Vote for me, and don't let AASG go Saturday night. Keep the memories, the friendships, and the experiences around until the spring, so we don't have to pick up where we left off, because it will not have ended. Stick with AASG, stick with Andrew.
We will now move on to our vice president candidate speeches. So we're going alphabetically by last name, so that means that Kiana Abruska from Mount Edgecombe High School is first.
Good evening, AASG. My name is Kiana Abruska, and I'll be running for Vice President of the Alaska Association of Student Governments. This year, I'm determined to work to my greatest potential to help you achieve your goals. But first, let me give you a little information about me. I'm originally from Bethel, where's Region 7 over there, and I go to Sitka right now, and I'm going to school at Mount Edgecombe High School. In the 3 years I've been there, I've participated in cheerleading, varsity, my local student government. I was a top leader, teen outreach program, and I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm here to tell you why I would be such a great addition to the Alaska Association of Student Government. Why vote for me? I'm sure you're just wondering, I'm just an average girl, scared out of her wits, but is brave enough to come up here. But in the end, I'm not as average as you think. During school, I'm a student, of course, doing homework and all that. But then after school, I work at the Mount Edgecombe Library and the student store, which is like concessions. By doing that, I interact with a lot of students. I give help. I listen to what they need to do. And this engages me to thinking about more outside the world, thinking of more helping and doing a bigger goal for myself, such as Vice President of AASG. And this helps me gain more friends and meet more people. I met a lot of you today, and I was really surprised. This is really great for me. This includes me being on my student council board in Edgecombe. I am the junior vice president too. So while I am at school, I hear a lot of students' problems or solutions to our school, like the new buildings we're getting. And while I was coming up with my speech, I wanted to do something that would grab the audience's attention. Then I realized I should just be myself. Why are you voting for me? Why would you vote for someone who's acting in a campaign and after they don't do nothing? That is not me, so I'll just be myself today. So if I plan on being myself, I'll need to show a lot of dedication to being vice president, and I will gladly work for it. If I become vice president, I will be going to represent everybody in Alaska. Every student that creates a resolution will be heard and reported to the principals, state legislators, and the AASG students. And I will be I will make sure that you will get a response back from me. I'm Kiana Brusca of Mount Edgecombe High School, and I approve this message. Please vote for me. Yeah.
Continuing alphabetically by last name, I'd like to invite Steguri, our next nominee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Yuri. I'm the freshman class president of Kodiak High School, and I'm running to be AASG Executive Board Vice President. I'm from Region 3. You know what I love? I love writing resolutions. If I could do anything, just anything in the world, it would be writing resolutions. That is how much I love them. Anyhow, I would love to serve as AASG E-Board Vice President. I would like to assume this position to better extend my leadership skills to new horizons. I love student council. You know why? You meet new people, you get involved, and you make lasting impressions. My brother really started me on this early on. For example, even before I was a class officer or a general member of our student council, I went to the WLSC Leadership Summit, which stands for Western Leaders Summit Camp. It was at Chowila Peak, Washington. I learned that everyone leads differently, and everyone has improvements to be made. You all may be wondering, why is a freshman running for e-board? For me, this is not just a way to expand my resume. It is I representing a whole new generation of student council delegates. By running as a freshman, I am putting my foot in the door. I am putting myself out there. I am offering you longevity through my services. I thoroughly enjoyed the RSVP and resolution process because we are here to make change within our school, community, even state. That's why I resolved to be one of the next great leaders in the state. To conclude, I wanted to say that I'm a lot like a semicolon in a whereas statement. I have the capabilities to stop and evaluate if needed, yet continue forward and make change. Whereas, vote for Stieg for VP. So, vote for me, Stieg Yuri, as E-Board Vice President.
Vice presidential nominees is Malia Walters.
Hi, AASG. Many of you hopefully will recognize me because I am up here on the e-board as Region 2 rep. My name is Malia Walters, and I'm serving as Region 2 rep from Tri-Valley School in Healy, Alaska. I took over Region 2 rep for Marin when she graduated last year. Since my term is ending soon, and I wanted to stay connected on the board, I figured it would be a great idea to run for vice president because I just really love student council. And running for VP is important for me because I recognize that many students that come to AASG, it's their main goal to get a resolution passed. And for vice president, they mainly focus on resolutions. So I'd make sure that everyone's resolution is fairly represented and resolutions are handed out on time and information is passed along. But VP is not the only thing that I do. Prior to being on the e-board, I've attended many leadership conferences. I attended People to People in Washington, D.C., and it was pretty much life-changing. It helped me be more outgoing and more of a people person. Last year, I attended the Youth Leadership Institute in Anchorage and learned how to better network with kids from around the state. I also stay very heavily involved with the student council at Tri-Valley School, as I serve as vice president of the whole student body and also in the student council of my class. So for VP, I would like to do that because I would make sure that the resolutions are fairly represented, because as I said earlier, resolutions are a main focus for students of AASG because it's a direct way to get change in your state and your community. And as I was kind of looking over quotes, I found one that really stuck out to me that I think directly applies to resolutions, and it's stop wishing, start doing. And I think that by submitting resolutions, students can stop wishing for change and start doing change. So to stop wishing and start doing, you should elect Malia Walters as Vice President of AASG. Thank you.
We will now move on to presidential nomination speeches. So alphabetical order by last name is Ariel Haas is first.
Hi, everyone. I hope you've had a great conference day, even though we've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. And you probably have heard me talk way too much today, so I'm gonna try to keep it short-ish. I'll work on it. So let's get started. So, who's up for a fun fact of the day? Who wants to learn something new? Yeah! We're all about learning here. Okay, so recently, anthropologists have found sound tapes from the Creozoan era, giving us insight on the call of a pterodactyl.
Okay, I'm calling a quick scholarship.
Wow. Or maybe they've just discovered a new medical condition. For those of you who haven't caught on yet, my name is Ariel Haas, and I currently serve as your parliamentarian. Hopefully you've noticed my restoration of order, not accidental hiccup chaos. New fun fact of the day. The year 1973 is very important to me. It was the year that my mother was born. It also happened to be the beginning of the Iditarod. It marked the 1973 oil crisis, which lit a spark for petroleum in Alaska, which some of you may know is important for our industry. 1973 was only 9 years after the 1964 earthquake, 14 years after statehood, and the first year that the Alaska Association of Student Governments held a conference. That was the first year that students gained a unified voice in Alaska. Since then, we have feathered administration, wrangled school boards, wielded resolutions. We have found avid supporters, educational change, and student unity. To the future generations, AASG has been the cradle for some, helping them gain leadership and professional skills. We've grown friends and habit, global thinking, and local appreciation. For others, AASG has been a stage. Leaders of Alaska don't have to stand alone. At AASG, relevant issues can be discussed and addressed, and this stage allowed them to influence Alaskans for our brighter future. And now, 40 years after the first conference in service, here we are in Juneau, a formidable force of change. I asked to be your vice president. Don't vote for me for vice president. I asked to be your president. I asked you to let me serve the students of Alaska. I will foster the cradle and lift the stage. As your leader, my job is to serve and support. I will encourage students to capitalize on this unification through resolutions. I will serve you with leadership avenues. You ask, what will I do as president? I will reach farther into Alaska. I will find the remote regions. I'll bring more community and industry awareness because we do exist. I'll help find holes like suicide prevention. And I will push us into a more progressive atmosphere and dare to endeavor where no others have before. I will be fearless in my leadership, stonewalled to those who don't find our voice worthy, and welcoming to those who do. Even more, my answer to you is, what do the students of Alaska need me to do as president? This summer, I had the opportunity to attend the National Association of Student Councils conference. I was excited. Our group was presenting on resolutions, which I get pretty excited about, student voice and all. Unfortunately, though, our delegation left pretty disappointed. We didn't think that an adult-run conference fit our bill of student leadership. We didn't think that a state leadership summit for the state officers run by an adult fit our bill for leadership. Even more disappointingly, we found that many of the state conferences were just as adult as the national conference. We found that in this, Alaska is unique. We demonstrate student and leadership, not just leadership. For this, we are the best. As the best, I challenge you to think outside your boundaries, to raise student voice, and think to the future. I challenge you to let me be your president and do the same. Because 1973 is very important to me as the start of AASG. But 2013 marks 40 years of success and a promise of much more to come. As your president, I will be a part of serving you and helping fulfill the promise of student voice and leadership. Vote Ariel Haas for your next step.
Our last speech of the evening will be Mariel Otto for president.
Haka hui atka katawak kasatun lo atka Mariel Otto. Gangirnagamingunga litnaulachta ayaginach litnaugvigmi. And that is translated to, hi, my Yupik name is Katak. In English, my name is Mariel Otto. I am from Kangiganak, which is outside of Bethel. Kangiganak is a remote village that was originated from another village, Kuigilnguk, and that is about 12 miles away from Kang. Kang has a population of about 450 people, and our first language growing up is Yupik. I go to school at Ayaginachlit. I am a junior and I am 16 years old. My parents are Jonathan and Bernadette Otto. I have 5 younger siblings. I have gone to Mount Edgecombe High School my freshman year and the first semester of my sophomore year. I enjoy hunting and subsistence, which are seal hunting, bird hunting, and fishing. I also enjoy sports, which are basketball and Native Youth Olympics. I am the student council class president of Ayaginachlit, which gives me the experience of being a leader. I am good at positive communication with anybody I meet, and I have good organization skills. If I am your AASG president, I will put in time to make anything happen. I am committed and excited to hopefully serve as your Alaska Association of Student Governments president, Guyana.
Just a reminder that we are still accepting nominations and applications, so application first, and nominations for parliamentarian. At this time, can we have all of the nominees for the interview position? So this includes parliamentarian, secretary treasurer, and the State Board of Education and Early Development representative. Just come right down here and I'll get you guys your official nominee ribbons. order. Yeah. We're still in order, so make sure to take a seat and be quiet. Ariel has got your placards.
Yeah. Your Harley placards. Placards.
Ready? Just 1 second. While we get some technical stuff settled, you guys can be at you. Just kidding, you can't. All right, with that, we will be, sorry, guys, we're in order. All right, so with that, we will be continuing our discussion. So a reminder that we are still in discussion of the amendment to resolution number 2. So will the authors of resolution number 2 please approach the board? We will not be reading the resolution again, so hopefully you're familiar. So the floor is now open to discussion on the amendment to resolution number 4. Sorry, resolution number 2. We are still in order, so even though people are moving around, please be quiet.
Hey guys, we don't have too much General Assembly time. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to leave each other tomorrow, which is really sad. But in light of that, we should try to get through things as quickly as possible and as quietly as possible so that we can get as much resolution time as possible. Thank you.
The board recognizes Chugiak.
Emily Wood, passing the mic to Bree Bangu.
Hi there. Chugiak High School believes that the author's intent is not conveyed clearly in whereas statement number 4. We move to strike the phrase during the quarterly grading period at the teacher's discretion of the student's individual progress, leaving the phrase teachers will inform coaches or advisors when a participant is failing. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you will be amending the amendment. Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Unalaska. Will you please approach the board with wording?
Hey, if you have a point of information placard, you get to cut in line. Free pass.
Just wait 1 second while we get this amendment to the amendment.
Can you come up on the stage?
We're still in order. Thank you very much. So, just a reminder, the underlined section is what Chugiak has moved to strike. So we are now in discussion of the amendment to the amendment. So the board recognizes Bethel with a point of information.
Ethan Forbes, pass the mic to CJ McCormick.
Has the question already been called?
We have called the question on other amendments of amendments, but we get a new amendment of amendment.
The board recognizes Valdez.
I'm Catherine Keeney, passing the mic off to Emily Fisick.
Okay, we feel that the amendment, not the striking to the amendment before.
We're in discussion of the amendment to the amendment.
But haven't we not done a vote?
When we have another motion, you have to start with the most recent. So right now we are discussing striking the underlined section. The board recognizes Bethel.
Ethan Forbes, pass the mic to CJ.
McCormick. I move to call the question.
Is there a second to calling the question? Seconded by Eagle River. There's no discussion on calling the question, but we do need a 2/3 majority. Remember that this is a motion to call the question on the amendment to the amendment. So all in favor of calling the question? Any opposition? The question has been called. We will now move to a vote on the amendment to the amendment. A reminder that it is to strike the underlined section of the resolution. So, with that, all in favor of the amendment to the amendment? Opposition? The amendment to the amendment passes with noted opposition. The highlighted and underlined section will now be struck from the resolution. We're still in order.
Seriously. Okay, so now that we've struck all of that, do we still have to discuss the amendments? The amendment's gone. So now we're back to the discussion of the resolution, right?
Yeah, since the amendment was really just.
Okay, so since the amendment to the amendment took away the original amendment, sorry if that's a little confusing, we are now back to the discussion to the resolution as amended. So the board recognizes West Valley with a point of information.
I'm Anisha Misor, passing the mic to Jenna Johnson. I think I have the right board for this, but I have a question about the entire thing. So does this have the school support, like the school body and the teacher support?
The board directs your question to the author.
Yes, we already have the support of our school, our teachers. We fixed everything so it followed what they wanted. And this is just the final approval we wanted.
The board recognizes Lake and Penn.
Hi, I'm William, passing the mic off to Nathan Ward.
I move to call the question on the entire thing.
All in favor of calling the... Whoa, is there... Well, all right.
I'm sorry, that was
Okay, so down. Is there a second to calling the question? Seconded by West Anchorage. All right, all in favor of calling the question on the entire resolution as amended? Any opposition to calling the question? We will now move to a vote on the resolution as amended. All in favor of resolution number 2, please raise your placards. Thank you. Any opposition? The resolution passes. Would the authors like to ask for unanimous consent? Would you like to ask for unanimous consent? Is there any opposition to passing the resolution unanimously? Resolution number 2 passes unanimously.
Hey, I know we got to clap a little bit ago, but let's go back to snapping.
All right. With that, I entertain a motion to bring resolution number 3 to the floor. So moved by Craig, seconded by Haynes.
No, you were supposed to wait for who? Oh, there's discussion. So she's gonna say, don't pass it.
We are still in order, seriously. Is there any discussion on bringing resolution number 3 to the floor? The board recognizes Chugiak.
Emily Wood, passing the mic to Tasha Boyer.
I'm Tasha Boyer, and Chugiak submitted a resolution, and we submitted it early to the wrong email address. We were the first school to submit a resolution, and unfortunately, because it was to the wrong email address, it wasn't put first on this list. So we're resolution number 13, I believe. And Region 4 is actually leaving the conference early, so if our resolution is one of the last ones, we can't present. So I would like to move Chugiak's resolution up now.
The board directs your question, well, your comment to the vice president. About what they should do. What was their response?
It's a motion.
They made a motion to do it.
So you can second it.
All right, sorry. All right, is there a second to, wow. I think Bethel got it. So is there any discussion on moving resolution from Chugiak up? Since there's no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of moving Chugiak's resolution? Any opposition? All right, Chugiak's resolution has been moved.
Yeah. No, that we just entertained the motion and we never.
Okay. So just to clarify, we entertained a motion to bring resolution number 3 to the floor, but nothing happened with that. And so we actually passed Chugiak's motion to bring their resolution to the floor. So with that, we just passed a motion to move Chugiak's resolution. So with that, I entertain a motion to bring Chugiak's resolution to the floor. So moved by Tri-Valley, seconded by Petersburg. Is there any discussion on bringing resolution or the resolution from Chugiak to the floor? The board recognizes Matsu Career and Technical with a point of order.
Hi, I'm Hannah Grothy from Matsu Career and Technical, passing the mic off to Carly.
This resolution has not been discussed in region meetings because it's further in the resolution list.
That's a really fair point. It's really
No, I think that they are going to have to go for it.
It's okay to do it.
No, they're going to do it. No. They're going to do it. I don't care what it's involving. They're going to do it, and if we bring it to the floor, they can say to postpone definitely. Exactly, it's brought to the floor, so if somebody's morally opposed to doing it because they haven't read it, they can come and postpone it indefinitely.
All right, we are still in order. Yes, we are. Oh, great. We are in order. Hey, please limit sidebar conversation. All right, so to address the previous point of order, in light of time, we're gonna go with it. But if any of you guys, and since the motion is already on the floor, the resolution is already on the floor for discussion, we're going to continue with it unless someone would like to make a motion to postpone definitely if they strongly, very strongly, feel the need to discuss this in a region meeting or later. In which we will have to break for region meetings to go discuss and return back. But we have our banquet soon. So if any of you desperately need it, please, now would be the time to postpone definitely after we take this point of order.
You can adjust this over.
All right.
Oh, it's surface.
Are you guys still? Will the authors of Chugiak's resolution please approach the board? You can just. We're still in order, guys. I know it's confusing, but please be quiet.
Okay. Does this work? Okay. Be it resolved by the Alaska Association of Student Governments. Whereas Chugiak High School does not have an ATM machine. Whereas students who don't have cash and wish to purchase food or other items at the school cannot. Whereas these students have shown interest in this resolution. Whereas there is space for an ATM machine in many sections of the school. Whereas other schools in the Anchorage School District have ATM machines that are commonly used. Whereas having an ATM machine at the school would not be a burden on the school, but would rather enhance its daily profit. Whereas the principal has shown interest in purchasing an ATM machine for the school, but still wants student support. Whereas passing this resolution would show the principal that there is that necessary support. Therefore, be it resolved by the Alaska Association of Student Governments that there be an ATM machine installed at Chugiak High School. Action statement. If resolved by the General Assembly of the Alaska Association of Student Governments, should be sent to the Chugiak High School principal and the Chugiak High School Student and Staff Services principal.
The author now has a 2-minute platform for the resolution.
Okay, so I understand that we haven't discussed this in region meetings, and I apologize for that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. We just want an ATM machine installed. We don't have the logistics or anything about how much that would cost to install. The purpose of this resolution is solely so our principal can know that that there is student support for an ATM machine, and that it would do the school good to get one installed. I think that's it.
So we have no region reports because you haven't discussed it in region meetings. So the floor is now open for debate on Chugiak's resolution. The board recognizes Wasilla with a point of information.
I'm Christina Hoy from Wasilla, and I'm passing the mic to Chase Hammer.
Hello, Chase Hammer, and I have a question for the parliamentarian. Is it constitutional to move the order of certain resolutions from, like we just did?
I direct your question to the parliamentarian.
Nowhere in our Constitution and bylaws does it prohibit us from moving a resolution, and nowhere in parliamentary procedure does it prohibit you from making a motion to move things. So.
What is prohibited in our Constitution and bylaws is that you cannot postpone indefinitely. What is prohibited in our Constitution and bylaws is that you cannot postpone. When you postpone things indefinitely or when you table things, it doesn't automatically come back to the next conference. But you can move resolutions.
Thank you.
Okay, while we check our Constitution and bylaws, just to be sure, the floor is still open for debate on Chugiak's resolution.
Please limit sidebar conversation.
The board recognizes Craig.
My name's Kean Bird, and I pass the mic on to Kelsey Trojan.
We're still in order. Please be respectful.
I'm Kelsey Trojan, and we move to call the question.
Seconded by Petersburg. All in favor of calling the question on Chugiak's resolution? Okay. Any opposition to calling the question? The question has been called. We'll now be voting on Chugiak's resolution. All in favor? Any opposition? Chugiak's resolution has been passed. Would the author like to ask for unanimous consent? Is there any opposition to passing the resolution unanimously? Alrighty, Chugiak's resolution passes without unanimous consent. So we are now back to we're now back to our regular resolution order. So with that, I entertain a motion to bring resolution number 3 to the floor. So moved by Mount Edgecombe, seconded by Valdez. Is there any discussion on bringing resolution number 3 to the floor? Any discussion on bringing resolution number 3 to the floor? All right, all in favor of bringing resolution number 3 to the floor? Any opposition? Resolution number 3 has been brought to the floor. Will the authors of resolution number 3 please please come to the board?
Ethan Forbes passing the mic to Kate McWilliams.
Be it resolved by the Alaska Association of Student Governments, whereas students would be dismissed an hour earlier than usual, whereas currently kids taking the bus get home around 5 o'clock, whereas this would allow more time for homework after school, whereas sports practices start immediately after school and last until 8 or 9 at night, whereas most kids get to school early anyways because parents get to work early, whereas most schools around the state begin around this time, whereas teachers would have a whole afternoon to prep instead of jamming it into morning and evening planning, whereas students working after school jobs would have more flexible hours, whereas traveling teams arriving in the afternoon would disrupt less class time. Therefore, be it resolved by the Alaska Association of Student Governments that the BRHS administration begins the BRHS school day. Therefore, be it resolved by the Alaska Association of Student Governments that the BRHS administration begins the BRHS school day at 7:45.
The author now has a 2-minute platform.
Okay, so our school day currently starts at 8:45 and goes till 4:10, 4 days a week, and then on Friday we get out an hour and a half earlier. But when multiple sports are going on, sometimes our sports practices will go till 10 at night, and we think that starting the school day, just moving the whole day forward an hour would be better.
We will now move on to region reports, starting with Region 2.
Region 2 does not support this resolution.
Region 3 supports this resolution with noted opposition.
Region 4 supports this resolution.
Region 5 supports this resolution with noted opposition.
Region 6 supports this resolution with noted opposition.
Region 7 unanimously supports this resolution.
The floor is now open for debate on resolution number 3. Before we get started, we are going to have to recess at 7 o'clock for our banquet, just so you guys know. Not right now, but. The board recognizes Monroe Catholic with a point of information. We're still in order.
I'm Andrew Walter, and I'm passing the mic off to Sierra Newman.
Hi, I'm Sierra Newman. I would just like to know if the authors have talked to their staff or their students, have taken any steps in making sure that they are supportive of this resolution, if they're supportive of this.
The board directs your question to the author.
We haven't talked to staff about it, but we know that a lot of students would agree with that, especially the student athletes, because getting home so late and it makes it hard to get homework done, so.
I need to see placards. Thank you. The board recognizes Hutchison with a point of information.
I'm Christina Kiesler, passing the mic off to Brian Forrest.
My name is Brian Forrest, and I have a question for the author.
Go ahead.
Would the authors be willing to reconstruct their resolution? in a way that it would be clear, more indefinitely more clear to us as a whole?
The board directs your question to the author.
In what ways is it unclear?
So you can't go back for another point. So unfortunately, I have to. Sorry, I have to recognize Thunder Mountain with a point of information, but you guys can come back.
Thank you.
Zach Giannotti, handing the mic off to Hannah Marks.
Hi, I'm Hannah Marks from Thunder Mountain. I have a question directed to the board. Can a resolution be passed without an action statement?
Yes.
Nowhere in our bylaws or constitution does it prohibit us from passing resolutions with action statements, or therefore, however, you should consider the credibility of our organization when passing motions. Resolutions, to clarify.
Thanks. The board recognizes.
Oh. Please respect the placards. What just happened?
Oh my. Oh. The board recognizes Sitka with a point of information.
I'm Colton Cummins, and I'd like to pass the mic on to Owen Fulton.
Where will this resolution be, if it is passed by AASG, where will it be sent to, or who will it be presented to?
The board directs your question to the author.
It will be presented to our school board and our principal, administration.
The board recognizes Kodiak with a point of information. The board recognizes Kodiak with a point of information.
My name is Steve Gary, and I'm handing off the mic to Nelsgary.
Yes, my question is, was it in accordance with our Constitution and bylaws to move resolutions forward?
Direct your question to the parliamentarian.
Yes, I have checked our constitution and bylaws, and in accordance with our constitution, in accordance with our constitution, it does not clarify on, it clarifies in Article 6, Section D, that the Constitution and bylaws, no, just kidding. Okay, Section C, meetings of the General Assembly will be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order. There's nothing in Robert's Rules of Order that prohibits someone from moving something forward in our resolution packet. And then in accordance with our bylaws, Article 5, Section A, subsection 2 gives the General Assembly the authority to introduce topics to the General Assembly and act on motions in the General Assembly, as was just done, and further clarified in Article 6, Section A, subsection now 3, since we ratified something earlier. It does say resolutions will be ordered by the time they are first received at AASG, but it does not say anything that prohibits the General Assembly from moving that. In fact, earlier in that Article 5, it gives you the power to move. So, clarified. To some concerned advisors, where we have run into problems of moving resolutions forward and backward in the past, as a general rule, we don't do that, but nothing was actually changed in the Constitution and bylaws. We as a General Assembly thought that Chugiak was given an unfair advantage with their email, so that's a disadvantage. They were given a disadvantage with the email because it does say in our Constitution and bylaws that it'll be sent to the email of the Vice President. So we believe it is entirely right in our Constitution and bylaws that their resolution was moved. With that, we are still debating resolution number 3. The board recognizes Bethel.
I'm Ethan Blevins, and I'm passing the mic over to CJ.
McCormick. I add to make add the action statement that this resolution be sent to BRHS Principal Janelle Vanas.
Is there a second to the amendment? Seconded by Unalaska. We are now discussing the amendment to the resolution, which adds an action statement. So the wording will be up momentarily.
Comma.
All right, we are now discussing the resolution, we are now discussing the amendment to the resolution, which adds a whereas statement. Is there any discussion on the resolution amendment? The board recognizes Bethel.
I'm Ethan Blevins, and I'm passing the microphone to Ethan Forbes.
I move to call the question on the amendment.
So moved by Lumen Christie. All in favor of calling the question?
Hi, parliamentarian moment here. Earlier in our welcome workshops, was way back on Thursday, we discussed calling to questions, and in our welcome workshops, we did clarify that while every delegate does have the right to call the question, you should consider that we are here to debate resolutions and amendments. And I'm not saying this is an inappropriate time to do it necessarily, but be cognitive that we are here to debate. So don't stop somebody else from getting their chance to raise their voice. Thank you.
So we're still voting on calling the question. So all in favor of calling the question on the amendment? Any opposition? The question has been called on the amendment to the resolution. All in favor of the amendment to the resolution? And any opposition? The amendment passes. We are now back to the discussion of the resolution as amended. The board recognizes Matsu Career Tech.
I am Aurora Littlewood from Matsu Career Tech, and I pass the mic to Sam Carlton.
Hi, I'm Sam Carlton. We start our school at 7:58 and end at 1:45, and it gives us time to get there, do leftover homework. We have enough time to do sports after school and homework and jobs. So if they do start school earlier, I think it'll be as beneficial to them as it is to our school.
The board recognizes service with a point of information.
I am Tel Finnerty, passing the mic to Liam Mamakunian.
With a point of info, is there a reason why your school starts so late? Like, does the sun rise at like noon or something?
The board directs your question to the author.
No, not really. I think that's just how it's been for so long.
We're still in order, regardless of celestial questions. The board recognizes Thunder Mountain with a point of information.
I'm Zach Giannotti, handing the mic off to Hannah Marks.
We're still in order. Please be respectful of the speaker.
I'm Hannah Marks from Thunder Mountain, and this question is, I guess, directed to the board. Do we know if the principal has the power? Oh, it's been changed. Never mind.
The board recognizes Lake and Penn with a point of information.
Hi, I'm William Lynn, passing the mic off to Nathan Ward.
I'd like to know if this would affect only BRHS or all the schools in maybe their district, or are you planning on it being statewide?
The board directs your question to the author.
This was intended just for Bethel and just for our high school.
The board recognizes Sitka.
I'm Colton Cummins, and I'd like to pass the mic on to Owen Fulton.
I'm back here again to state something that I stated earlier about our first resolution that was presented. We, again, are not the legislative body implementing this rule. This will just be presented to the principal of BRHS. All we're doing is simply enabling the students to hopefully see their wishes fulfilled. And if it is true that the students are in support of this resolution, I think we should pass this resolution simply because it's in their best interest. Thank you.
The board recognizes Lumen Christie with a point of information.
My name is Quaid, handing the mic off to Mary Lottridge.
I have a question directed towards the authors.
Go ahead.
When do your other schools start in Bethel? Do you have the same time, or does elementary start later?
Go ahead.
Most of our schools start around 8:30 or 8:45.
Okay, so may I ask another question? No?
You can get back in line, though. The board recognizes Thunder Mountain with a point of information.
I'm Zach Giannotti, handing the mic off to Hannah Marks.
Hi, I'm Hannah Marks from Thunder Mountain. I just have a question. In the action statement, it says principal. Does the principal have the power to change school times?
The board directs your question to the author.
She does, but it's mostly manipulated by the bus schedule, but we would be able to negotiate with the bus company.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any other discussion on resolution number 3 as amended? Any other discussion? We'll now move to a vote on resolution number 3 as amended. All in favor of resolution number 3? And any opposition? Resolution number 3 has been passed. Would the authors like to ask for unanimous consent?
Yes, please.
Is there any opposition to passing the resolution unanimously? Okay, resolution number 3 still passes, but not with unanimous consent. All right, so with that, we do need to get to our banquet, so I entertain a motion to recess for our banquet. So moved by West Valley, seconded by Huna.
Hey guys,
We are still in order.
We are still in order. The motion has not been discussed nor passed.
But we're glad you're excited. Is there any discussion on recessing for the banquet? All in favor? Any opposition? We are now at recess. Please, oh, sorry, wait. We had a cell phone lost.
Hey, sit down real fast.
It's a black Samsung. Anyone? Bueller? Yeah, see ya. Come get it. Go to the banquet. Thanks, guys.
Really quickly, though, if you're sitting around that projector, could you turn that sucker off? Gracias.